Commander Jack Reynolds squinted at the monitor, the blue light washing over his weathered face as he slouched in his chair at the SETI listening post. Retirement from the military had been boring until this gig came along. Now, most days were still boring, just with more blinking lights. "Sir, I'm picking up something weird on frequency 7, called out Technician Fowler, a kid barely old enough to remember landline lines. "Probably another pulsar or Russian satellite," Reynolds muttered, not bothering to look up from his crossword puzzle. 6 letters, celestial body, starts with C. "Comet," Fowler replied automatically. "And no, sir, this is different. It's structured, repeating patterns. Like it's trying to communicate." Reynolds sighed, set down his puzzle, and ambled over. As he watched the pattern unfold on screen, the hair on his arms stood up. 26 years in military intelligence hadn't prepared him for this. "Call Washington," he ordered, suddenly alert. "Now." In now. 48 hours later, Reynolds stood in the Oval Office, surrounded by officials who looked like they'd rather be anywhere else. "So let me get this straight," said President Mills, pinching the bridge of his nose. "You're telling me that aliens want our coffee beans?" Reynolds nodded grimly. "Yes, Madam President. The message was quite clear once we decoded it. The Zorblaxians, as they call themselves, demand Earth's unconditional surrender and all our coffee crops. They say they'll reduce our planet to cosmic dust if we refuse." The National Security Advisor snorted. "The Commander, with all due respect, this sounds like someone's idea of a practical joke." "That's what I thought too," Reynolds admitted, "until this morning." He slid a tablet across the table, showing news reports from around the world. The Secretary of Agriculture paled as he read the headlines: "Coffee crisis, beans turning to dust worldwide." "We've confirmed reports from Brazil, Vietnam, Colombia, Ethiopia, every major coffee-producing nation," Reynolds continued. "Something is systematically destroying our coffee beans. And the Zorblaxians claimed they'd send us a taste of their power exactly 48 hours after their message." The room fell silent until the President spoke. "Options?" The Secretary of Defense cleared his throat. "Madam President, I recommend we treat this as a terrorist hoax while investigating the crop failures." Reynolds slammed his hand on the table. "For God's sake, it's first contact. They've demonstrated technology beyond anything we can comprehend. They turned coffee beans to dust across an entire planet simultaneously." "Commander," the President said calmly, "we appreciate your concern, but we need more evidence before declaring an alien invasion over coffee." As if on cue, every screen in the room flickered to life. A strange, bulbous face appeared, green-gray skin stretched over what might generously be called features, with 3 glowing yellow eyes arranged in a triangle. "Humans," boomed a voice that seemed to bypass the speakers and materialize directly in their heads. "Your coffee deadline approaches. Surrender your beans or face extinction." The Secretary of Defense fainted dead away. "I think," Reynolds said dryly into the stunned silence that followed, "that's the evidence you were looking for." 24 hours later, chaos reigned. Coffee prices soared to $10,000 per pound. Starbucks declared bankruptcy. 3 new religions sprung up overnight, each claiming the Zorblaxians were either angels, demons, or confused tourists. Reynolds found himself hastily promoted to head of the newly formed extraterrestrial coffee crisis response team. His office was a repurposed janitor's closet in the Pentagon basement. "Sir," his assistant called from the doorway, "the Joint Chiefs want to know if we've made contact with the Zorblaxians again." Reynolds laughed bitterly. "Tell them to join the club. Every government, corporation, and conspiracy theorist on the planet is trying to call them back." No response. He stared at the ceiling, wondering how humanity's first alien encounter had boiled down to a cosmic coffee robbery. If only he had a team, resources, anything to work with. His phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "We know how to contact them." At the old observatory. "Bring coffee." Reynolds grabbed his jacket. At this point, what did he have to lose? The old observatory turned out to be an abandoned research facility outside of DC. Reynolds approached cautiously, his military training kicking in as he scanned for threats. Instead, He found 3 people arguing around a makeshift lab. The frequency modulation needs to match the original transmission pattern, insisted a woman with wild curly hair and glasses that kept sliding down her nose. Yeah, and my car needs an oil change, but neither is happening without the right equipment, retorted a burly man in overalls, his hands black with mechanical grease. A third figure, a tall woman in an impeccable pantsuit, noticed Reynolds first, the commander. Thank you for coming. Reynolds raised an eyebrow. How about we start with who you are and how you got a secure government number? The pantsuit woman extended her hand. Dana Porter, United Nations Diplomatic Corps. The grumpy mechanic is Pete Turner. Call me Wrench, the man interrupted. And our socially challenged genius is Dr. Mia Daniels, astrophysicist. Mia didn't look up from her calculations. Did you bring coffee like we asked? Reynolds held up a thermos. Last real beans in DC, apparently. Now explain why I shouldn't arrest all of you for interfering in a national security crisis. Wrench snorted. Because we're the only ones who can save your ass, Commander. What my colleague means, Dana smoothly interjected, is that we have unique insights into the situation. I've been studying anomalous signals from that sector of space for years, Mia said, finally looking up. The Zorblaxians have visited before, throughout human history. I have evidence. Is so. And I, Wrench added, tapping a suspicious-looking device that definitely wasn't standard Earth technology, have some experience with their tech. Reynolds narrowed his eyes. How exactly does a mechanic get experience with alien technology? Let's just say some things crash in New Mexico that don't make the news, Wrench replied with a wink. And you? Reynolds asked Dana. She smiled thinly. Besides diplomatic channels, I was the North American barista champion 3 years running before joining the UN. I know coffee better than anyone alive. A scientist, a mechanic, and a barista-turned-diplomat, Reynolds said flatly. That's my alien fighting dream team. You forgot yourself, Mia pointed out. The washed-up military commander who's the only government official taking this seriously. Reynolds couldn't argue with that. Fine, what's your plan? Mia pulled up a holographic display technology that shouldn't exist on Earth, showing a complex molecular structure. We've been analyzing why they want coffee specifically. Look at this. Caffeine, Dana explained. Turns out, humans are the only known species in the galaxy who can metabolize it safely. To other species, it's either toxic or what? Reynolds prompted. Wrench grinned. Or it gets them high as a kite, like seriously tripping balls. It's a narcotic to most carbon-based alien life forms, Mia clarified, shooting Wrench an annoyed look. Extremely valuable and highly controlled in galactic society. So we're being invaded by space drug dealers? Reynolds asked incredulously. Space drug users, Dana corrected. And that's our advantage. They want our coffee. But they can't handle it like we can. Reynolds considered this. So what you're saying is, humanity's secret weapon is our collective caffeine addiction, Mia confirmed. We've evolved to consume what's essentially a neurotoxin to other species. Reynolds took a long sip from his thermos, suddenly appreciating his 3-cup-a-day habit in a new light. Okay, I'm listening. What's the plan? This, Reynolds said, staring at the contraption before him, is your master plan. It looks like a coffee maker had a baby with a rocket launcher. That's actually pretty accurate, Mia admitted, making final adjustments to what she dubbed the Espresso Express, a spaceship cobbled together from stolen alien tech, military prototype parts, and what appeared to be several industrial espresso machines. It had been 3 days since their meeting, and the world was growing desperate. Without coffee, productivity plummeted. Stock markets crashed. The president had declared a state of emergency after riots broke out at the last known cafe with beans. The caffeine propulsion system should get us to the Zorblaxian mothership in 12 hours, Mia explained. It runs on pure, concentrated caffeine thousands of times stronger than espresso. And it won't blow up? Reynolds asked skeptically. Wrench emerged from underneath the craft, face smeared with grease. Probably won't blow up, 60% sure. 70%, Mia corrected. Those odds are better than Earth's if we do nothing, Dana pointed out, loading the last crate of precious coffee beans into the cargo hold. She'd called in every diplomatic favor she had to secure them. Reynolds sighed. Walk me through the plan again. We fly up, pretending to be coffee merchants surrendering our supply, Dana explained. I'll handle the negotiations while Mia and Wrench gather intelligence on their ship. And I'm just backup muscle? Reynolds asked. You're our commander, Mia said simply. We need your tactical experience. Reynolds nodded, surprised by her confidence in him. One thing still bothers me. Why would advanced aliens capable of interstellar travel and molecular disintegration need to demand our coffee? Couldn't they just take it? That's what I've been saying, Wrench exclaimed. Something doesn't add up. New intelligence, Dana said, holding up her secure phone. Our UN contacts intercepted another transmission, not meant for us. The Zorblaxians are at war with something called the Quasar Collective. They're not after coffee as a drug, they want it as a biological weapon. A weapon? Reynolds frowned. Against whom? The Quasar Collective. Apparently, Mia replied, which means we're walking into an interstellar conflict. Great, Reynolds muttered. Just great. The launch was less dramatic than Reynolds expected, mostly a lot of gurgling noises as the caffeine propulsion system kicked in, followed by a sensation similar to drinking 8 espressos in rapid succession. The Earth fell away beneath them at impossible speed. How's a ship running on coffee going faster than light? Reynolds asked, gripping his seat as stars blurred around them. The caffeine isn't fuel, it's a catalyst, Mia explained. It agitates the quantum foam, creating a temporary wormhole. Essentially, we're riding a wave of jittery spacetime. Like the universe had too much coffee and got the jitters, Wrench added helpfully. We're approaching the Zorblaxian fleet, Dana announced, pointing to the radar. And that's not good. Ahead of them loomed not one ship but dozens massive, tentacled vessels surrounding a mothership the size of Manhattan. And beyond them, approaching fast, was another fleet of crystalline ships that looked like floating geometric nightmares. The Quasar Collective, Mia whispered. We just jumped into a war zone. Incoming transmission, Wrench called out. A familiar three-eyed face appeared on screen. Human vessel. Prepare for boarding. Surrender your coffee and your lives will be spared. Charming, Reynolds muttered before nodding to Dana. You're up, diplomat. Dana stepped forward, professional smile in place. This is Dana Porter of Earth, bearing gifts of our finest coffee as requested. We come in peace and hope to discuss terms of trade rather than surrender. The alien seemed taken aback by this approach. Its eyes blinked in sequence. Trade with primitives? Amusing. You will dock in Base 7. The screen went dark. Well, Reynolds said, checking his sidearm, Operation Bean Counter is officially a go. Let's hope those coffee beans are worth enough to save Earth. What none of them realized was that the Zorblaxians were watching them with more than just curiosity. As their ship docked in the cavernous bay, a smaller figure observed from the shadows a crystalline being that definitely wasn't Zorblaxian, its faceted head gleaming with malicious intelligence. Commander Krill of the Quasar Collective had plans of his own for Earth's unique beans, and the humans had just delivered themselves right into his claws. The Zorblaxian mothership smelled like a combination of wet cardboard and cinnamon, not entirely unpleasant, but definitely alien. Reynolds led the team down the docking ramp, each carrying samples of Earth's finest coffee beans. Remember, he whispered, we're just coffee merchants. Dana does the talking. 2 Zorblaxians approached, towering figures in mechanical suits, at least 8 feet tall, with those distinctive three-eyed faces. Up close, Reynolds noticed something odd about them. The movements seemed stiff, almost puppet-like. Follow, one commanded, its voice booming painfully in their heads. They were led through curving corridors that seemed to pulsate slightly, as if the ship itself were breathing. Other Zorblaxians scuttled past, paying little attention to the humans. Is it just me, Wrench muttered, or do these guys not seem very interested in the coffee we're carrying? Quiet, Dana hissed. They entered what appeared to be a control room. Dozens of Zorblaxians hunched over console like growths protruding from the floor. At the center stood a particularly imposing figure. "Humans," it announced. "I am Supreme Commander Zorlax. You bring coffee?" Dana stepped forward with practiced diplomatic grace. "Yes, Commander. Earth's finest Arabica and Robusta beans, grown in the volcanic soils of—" "Enough. Give." Dana presented a sample bag. The Supreme Commander took it with surprising delicacy for such massive limbs. It held the bag up to its face and sniffed, without a visible nose. Something definitely wasn't right. "While you examine our offering," Dana continued smoothly, "perhaps we could discuss terms that don't involve Earth's destruction." "Destruction inevitable," Zorlax stated flatly. "But not by us." Reynolds tensed. "What does that mean exactly?" Instead of answering, Zorlax turned abruptly. "You will wait. Guards, detain them." As the Zorblaxians surrounded them, Mia caught Reynolds' eye and mouthed something. "Distraction." Understanding instantly, Reynolds knocked over the crate of coffee beans he was carrying. "Oh no, our precious cargo." It was hardly Oscar-worthy, but it worked. As beans scattered across the floor, the Zorblaxians scrambled comically, giving Mia just enough time to slip a small device onto a nearby console. They were escorted to what was clearly a holding cell, a circular room with a single gelatinous door that solidified behind them. What was that about? Reynolds demanded once they were alone. "Scanner," Mia explained, pulling out a small tablet, "and you won't believe what it found. Those aren't Zorblaxians, at least not as we think of aliens. They're suits." "Suits?" Dinah repeated. "Mechanical constructs," Mia clarified, showing them the scan results, piloted by much smaller creatures inside. "It's like hamsters driving tanks." "You're saying we've been threatened by space hamsters?" Reynolds asked incredulously. "They're not hamsters," Wrench said, examining the scan. "But they are small, probably evolved in a high-gravity environment, needed the suits to function in standard gravity." "That's not all," Mia continued excitedly. "The ship's database, I only got a fragment, but it mentions the Quasar Collective repeatedly. They're not just at war, they've been manipulated into war by someone called Commander Krill." "And who's Krill when he's at home?" Reynolds asked. The gelatinous door suddenly dissolved, revealing a crystalline figure, humanoid but clearly not human, its body composed of translucent, faceted structures that caught the light like diamonds. "I believe," the figure said in a voice like tinkling glass, "she was referring to me." "Commander Krill, I presume?" Dana asked, recovering first. The crystalline being inclined what passed for its head. "Indeed. And you are the fascinating humans who metabolize caffeine. How delightful to meet you in person." "You speak English?" Reynolds noted suspiciously. "I speak all languages," Krill replied dismissively. "A simple matter of vibrating my crystalline structure to produce sound waves. But we have more important matters to discuss." "Like how you've manipulated the Zorblaxians into threatening Earth," Mia challenged. "Yes." Krill's facets glittered with what might have been amusement. "Clever little mammal. Yes, the Zorblaxians are merely pawns. They believe they're collecting coffee as a weapon against my people. In reality, they're collecting it for me." "But why?" Dinah asked. "What do you want with our coffee?" "Power," Krill said simply. "Your caffeine affects most species in this galaxy except mine. We're immune. Imagine controlling the most addictive substance in the universe, one that incapacitates your enemies while leaving you unaffected." "So it's a drug war," Reynolds said flatly. "We're caught in a cosmic drug war over coffee." "Crude, but accurate," Krill agreed. "And now that you've so helpfully delivered yourselves along with pure caffeine technology, I can proceed with my plan to extract all of Earth's coffee plants and to eliminate the only witnesses." "That's your evil plan?" Wrench snorted. "Man, space villains are just as cliché as Earth ones." Krill's crystalline body flashed dangerously. "Mock all you wish." "Guards." Two Zorblaxian suits entered, but now that Reynolds knew their secret, he could see the awkward movements that betrayed their true nature. Unfortunately, that knowledge didn't make their weapons any less deadly. "Take them to extraction chamber 3, Krill ordered. "I want their knowledge of caffeine processing before disposal." As they were marched out, Reynolds caught sight of their ship through a viewport. The Espresso Express sat unguarded in the docking bay, and he suddenly had a desperate idea. "Guys," he whispered, "how volatile is concentrated caffeine exactly?" Mia's eyes widened in understanding. "Extremely. Especially around crystalline structures. Like our friend Krill?" Reynolds confirmed. "Exactly like our friend Krill," Mia replied with a slowly spreading grin. "These ropes really necessary?" Reynolds asked as a Zorblaxian guard finished securing them to uncomfortable crystalline chairs in what appeared to be a laboratory. "We're cooperating." "Silence, human," the guard responded, though with noticeably less mental volume than before. Now that Reynolds knew they were essentially small creatures in mechanical suits, the intimidation factor had dropped considerably. The moment the guard left, Wrench began wiggling in his restraints. These idiots used standard knots. "Amateur hour." "Focus," Reynolds hissed. "Mia, what's our window?" Mia, despite being tied up, somehow managed to check her wrist device. "The extraction team will reach our ship in approximately 15 minutes. If they tamper with the caffeine propulsion system incorrectly." "Boom?" Dinah asked. "More like Fezzi's tea," Mia replied. "The caffeine catalyst would disperse throughout the ship, affecting anyone who breathes it. For the Zorblaxians, that means extreme intoxication." "And for Krill?" Reynolds pressed. "I know," Mia admitted. "But his crystalline structure should be immune, like he claimed." Wrench finally freed his hands with a triumphant hey, and quickly untied the others. "So what's the actual plan here, Commander? Because hope the aliens get high seems a bit thin." Reynolds patted his pocket, producing several packets of instant coffee he'd stashed before boarding. "We make our own caffeine bomb." Dana looked skeptical. "With Folger's instant?" "It's what I had," Reynolds defended. "Mia, can you rig something up with this?" Mia examined the packets. "Maybe. I'd need water, heat, and something to create pressure." "I saw what looked like a kitchenette down the hall," Dana offered, assuming aliens need to eat. "First, we need a distraction to get past the guard," Reynolds said. All eyes turned to Wrench, who sighed dramatically. "Why is it always me?" 5 minutes later, pitiful moaning echoed through the laboratory. "Oh, I stomach. Earth beans poisoning me. I help." "And?" The gelatinous door dissolved as a Zorblaxian guard entered. "Humans sick." "So very sick," Wrench groaned, curled in a ball on the floor. "Must be the coffee. It's killing me." The guard approached cautiously, mechanical suit whirring with each step. Explained symptoms. "Closer," Wrench whispered. "Can't talk loud." As the guard leaned down, Reynolds pounced from behind, jamming a metal rod into a joint of the mechanical suit. The Zorblaxian flailed, suit spinning wildly before collapsing in a heap. A small hatch popped open, and a creature no bigger than a guinea pig tumbled out, chittering angrily. "Ah," Dana remarked. "They really are space hamsters." "Goebbels," Mia corrected, examining the tiny alien. "Structure suggests Goebbels-like evolution." Reynolds gently scooped up the Zorblaxian, who continued to chitter in what was clearly profanity. "Let's find that kitchenette." The kitchenette turned out to be a nutrient processing chamber. After some trial and error, they identified a water source and heating element. Mia worked quickly, combining the instant coffee with water in a sealed container rigged to a timer. "This will aerosolize the caffeine," she explained. "Maximum exposure. Minimum time. We'll have about 30 seconds to get to the ship before it goes off. And this will incapacitate the Zorblaxians?" Reynolds confirmed. "Hey, it should get them very, very high," Mia replied, "like college students during finals week." "But worse. What about Krill and his people?" Dinah asked. "That's where we're gambling," Reynolds admitted. "If he's telling the truth about being immune, we'll need another plan." "Well, if not. An alarm suddenly blared throughout the ship, a voice not the mental booming of the Zorblaxians, but Krill's crystalline tones echoed through the corridors. The humans have escaped. Find them. Time's up, Reynolds announced. Let's move. They sprinted through the corridors, Mia's caffeine bomb clutched carefully in Reynolds' hands. Twice they had to duck into alcoves as Zorblaxian guards rumbled past. Finally, they reached a viewport overlooking the docking bay. There's our ship, Dana pointed. And there's trouble. Below, Krill supervised as several Zorblaxians examined the Espresso Express. One had already opened the engine compartment. They'll trigger the catalyst, Mia warned. We need to hurry. Change of plans, Reynolds decided. We set off the bomb here, then fight our way to the ship during the confusion. And if Krill really is immune? Wrench asked. Reynolds handed him a large wrench they'd found in the kitchenette. Then you live up to your nickname. Mia set the timer, and Reynolds placed the makeshift bomb in a ventilation shaft. 10 seconds. Everyone, hold your breath after it goes off. The countdown felt eternal. When it finally beeped, a fine mist erupted from every air vent in the vicinity. Reynolds held his breath, motioning the others to follow him toward the docking bay. They burst through the door just as chaos erupted. Zorblaxians staggered drunkenly, their mechanical suits moving erratically. Some spun in circles, others had collapsed entirely. Small gerbil-like aliens stumbled from open hatches, their eyes dilated to comical proportions. And Krill was screaming, his crystalline body vibrating at an alarming frequency as the caffeine mist settled on his facets. I thought he was immune, Dana shouted as they raced for the ship. Apparently not, Mia called back. His crystalline structure must be amplifying the effect. They reached the Espresso Express just as Krill lurched toward them, body pulsating with rainbow colors. What have you done? His voice distorted, rising and falling in pitch like a broken synthesizer. Given you one hell of a caffeine buzz, Reynolds replied, backing onto the ship's ramp. To consider it Earth's counter-proposal to total surrender. What happened next? None of them could have predicted. Krill's crystalline body began to resonate softly at first, then with increasing intensity until he glowed with blinding light. The Zorblaxians, still conscious enough to notice, prostrated themselves, chittering in what sounded remarkably like reverence. Are they worshipping him? Dana asked incredulously. The caffeine isn't just affecting him, Mia realized, checking her scanner. It's transformed him into some kind of living broadcast station. He's transmitting pure euphoria to every being on this ship. As they watched, Krill rose several feet off the ground, crystals spinning like a disco ball. I see everything, he announced in a voice that somehow conveyed absolute bliss. All is coffee. This, Reynolds decided, might be our opening for negotiations. 3 hours later, the sheep. Reynolds sat across from a still slightly vibrating Krill, and the Zorblaxian High Command, now revealed as 7 guinea pig-sized aliens seated on tiny elevated platforms. The conference room of the mothership had been hastily converted into a makeshift cafe, complete with espresso machines salvaged from the human ship. So, let me make sure I understand, Reynolds said, taking a sip from his coffee mug. You're offering Earth protected status in the Galactic Federation, exclusive rights to coffee production, and a non-aggression pact between the Zorblaxians and the Quasar Collective in exchange for regular caffeine shipments? Correct, chittered the Zorblaxian Supreme Commander, its tiny voice now transmitted through a translator device rather than the intimidating mental booming. Coffee brings peace and enlightenment, added Krill, whose crystalline body still occasionally flashed with rainbow colors. My people have experienced transcendence through your caffeine. We wish to study its effects under controlled conditions. They're still high as kites, Wrench whispered to Reynolds. Don't complain, Mia whispered back. It's working in our favor. Dana, in full diplomatic mode, smiled graciously. Earth would be delighted to establish trade relations. We propose quarterly shipments of premium beans with training programs for proper brewing techniques. Acceptable, the Supreme Commander agreed, its tiny paws clasping in what appeared to be their version of applause. "There is one additional matter," Krill said, facets glittering. "The ceremonial sealing of our alliance." "What does that involve?" Reynolds asked warily. Krill produced what looked suspiciously like a coffee mug the size of a barrel. "The drink of peace. A special blend of your coffee and our enhancements." Reynolds eyed the steaming liquid. "And I'm supposed to drink that?" "Only humans can safely consume this mixture," Krill explained. "It is why you are perfect intermediaries between our peoples." Reynolds looked at his team. Mia shrugged. Wrench gave him a thumbs up. Dana nodded encouragingly. "Well," Reynolds sighed, "for Earth." He lifted the massive mug and took a swig. The effect was instantaneous. Colors became brighter, sounds crystallized. Reynolds felt like he could see individual atoms dancing in the air. "This is quite the coffee blend," he managed, his voice sounding distant to his own ears. "It is working," Krill exclaimed delightedly. "The human achieves clarity." "I achieved something," Reynolds agreed, not entirely sure what was happening but deciding to go with it. With newfound eloquence flowing through his caffeine-enhanced brain, he stood dramatically. "People of the stars, today marks a new era. Earth extends its hand and its coffee beans in friendship. But know this." He paused for dramatic effect, feeling strangely like he was starring in an epic space opera. "Never, ever, threaten what we hold dear. Coffee is sacred to us. It powers our civilization, fuels our innovations, and apparently can get 2 warring alien species higher than Earth's moon. You have witnessed but a fraction of caffeine's power today. Cross us again, and you will face our full wrath, served hot in a recyclable cup with optional room for cream." The Zorblaxians chittered in apparent awe. Krill's crystals pulsed with respectful blues and purples. The treaty was signed with surprising efficiency for beings still under the influence of Earth's most popular stimulant. 6 weeks later, Reynolds stood on the White House lawn, uncomfortably adjusting his new dress uniform. The patch on his shoulder displayed Earth's new logo, a coffee bean with stars surrounding it. "Stop fidgeting," Dana whispered beside him, resplendent in her new diplomatic robes as Earth's ambassador to the Galactic Federation. "I still can't believe they made me Admiral of the Space Caffeine Defense Force," Reynolds muttered. "It sounds like a bad comic book. Better than my title." Wrench chimed in, Chief Engineer of Interstellar Beverage Technologies. "Thea. My mom thinks I just design fancy coffee machines." "You essentially do," Mia pointed out, checking readings on her new alien tech tablet. "The wormhole generators run on caffeine derivatives." The president approached the podium, ready to announce Earth's new status to a world still reeling from the revelations of alien life and interstellar politics. "Citizens of Earth," she began, "6 weeks ago, we faced extinction over coffee beans. Today, we are the galaxy's premier supplier of the most valuable substance in space. Our first off-world Earth Beans Cafe opens next month on Alpha Centauri." The crowd cheered wildly. After the ceremony, the team gathered in Reynolds' new office, considerably more spacious than the janitor's closet he'd started in. To saving the world with coffee, Dana proposed a toast, raising her mug. To finding out aliens are just space gerbils with fancy suits, Wrench added. Into scientific discovery through recreational drug use, Mia contributed with uncharacteristic humor. Reynolds smiled, clinking his mug against theirs, to humanity. The only species stubborn enough to turn an addiction into galactic diplomacy. Outside, the first Zorblaxian tourist ships were entering orbit, filled with tiny aliens eager to experience authentic Earth coffee at its source. Krill had established a meditation retreat in the Himalayas, where crystalline beings studied the enlightenment properties of cappuccino. And across the galaxy, a new warning spread among spacefaring civilizations: never mess with humans before they've had their morning coffee. You will face their wrath and possibly become a repeat customer.